Sarah Rachel Walters is now going to read her poem, Gaza.
Gaza, an enclave by the sea. The beach divides the blue Mediterranean with death and destruction. Smoke rises from the once standing residences, now rubble, that has entombed thousands. Americans speak with a forked tongue. They talk of ceasefire, but send bombs. They are accessories to murder. Little children stand in line with their pots and pans, hoping to get some food for their shrunken bellies. People are starving. Two Semitic groups tearing each other apart, one mighty and powerful, the other disenfranchised and imprisoned. When will this horror end? When does us and them become we? When will they look into the eyes of the other and see themselves? When?
Thank you, Sarah. Now is the time in our service where we take an all. And so now I invite our speakers to join us up here. And our topic is, what is your year two going to look like? So each one of our speakers, and that is Ghanim Khalil on the right hand end. That's Roxanne Mustafa in the middle, and our own Sarah Rachel Walters at my near end. So I encourage you to speak up in turn, whatever it is you want to say, and share briefly with where you're at, what's been most important to you, and then we're going to throw it open to the congregation. Okay.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can everybody hear me in the back? All right, good. For me, this past year has been like a waking nightmare. The level, amount of stress, and I feel that I can't enjoy like normal things that you do on that's minutely enjoyable, that carry you out through the day, the week, the month, the year. Now seems so mundane that you don't even think about it. For me, what matters most, reflecting on the past year, is knowledge. We all have hearts. We're all born with a soul. And from the Islamic perspective, because I'm a Muslim, the soul has everything in it that it needs to survive in a healthy, progressive, merciful, and justified way. Not only to the self, but to everything around us, nature, other human beings, the stars even. And because the soul has those things, sometimes forgetfulness, in Arabic it's called ghafla. Forgetfulness makes us unkind, unmerciful, ignorant towards each other. And so the key is knowledge. Once knowledge unlocks the heart, everything beautiful and bright about the soul just comes out by nature. It's like the sun rises and then illuminates the beautiful landscape of wherever you live. So for me, it's been about countering the myths through knowledge, myths that have surrounded us by hatred and fear. Those are always the key factors that make us suppress each other. In the case of Palestine, a tremendous amount of ignorance surrounds the root of the conflict, why the conflict is the reality. And dispelling those myths immediately enlightens the soul, makes you see with such clarity what is actually happening, and then thereby automatically clarifying what your stance should be, because the clarification comes from the soul. It doesn't come from your biases or your life experience. You immediately see evil for what it is, and you immediately want to stand with the good. Actually, the feeling has sometimes been described as so overpowering that standing on the wrong side is the same thing as burning yourself with fire. So who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. Your body doesn't want to do that. Your mind doesn't want to do that. So for me, it's always been about dispelling the myths about the Palestinians, dispelling the myths about what we, simply just call a conflict, but that's the wrong word for it. So knowledge is the key. And in my experience from when I was a teenager to now, whenever I speak to someone and I enlighten them about a little thing here and there, that's what turns them around. That little piece of information that they didn't know. I didn't know that. And then suddenly they're a changed person about what's going on. So my hope is for the next year that I continue to do this with the assistance of everybody in this room. We continue to enlighten other people. And sometimes because it's a televised evil that's happening, someone might respond and say, it's so visible, how could people not know the truth? Don't underestimate how people, even if they see what's going on in front of them, still have the psychological mechanism to justify it, to reason with it in such a way that the evil continues. Don't underestimate that. I've seen that so many times happening. So knowledge is the key, and I hope to continue to do what I'm doing, is to speak out about it in a way that counters the myths, the misperceptions, and the ignorance surrounding who the Palestinians are and why they're fighting.
Thank you, brother. Peace and blessings on all of you. I'm a little emotional from Sarah's poem, so I'm going to try to talk through it. Forgive me, my voice is going to crack a lot. But this past year has been me trying to clamp this down, because I haven't been emotional about it, about this past year. I haven't been emotional about watching people who look like me being degraded, and their annihilation being accelerated. I clamp it down because I am living in beautiful Staten Island and I have privilege. And because of that, I have a duty and a job to do because I am safe and my children are safe. But my cousins are not safe. My dear friend, Lamia Aburaida, who had her first grandchild in the refugee camp in Rafah. She's from Gaza City. She's from the north. She had her grandchild in a tent. Her child is not safe and her grandchild is not safe. But my child is safe. When you were all talking about the joys and sorrows, it was such a great joy yesterday at our beautiful block party to see my teenagers coming in and out of my house, so happy with their costumes, Mario and Luigi, someone's a mechanic, and I'm just so elated. But then I see the pictures of the children. Every morning I wake up to images of children and their body parts. Every morning, every night. And I throw myself into speaking out and activism. And I like the word enlightenment because this is beyond education. This is beyond like cognitive understanding. This is about how are we going to transcend this horror to bring our humanity to a better place while we are witnessing a genocide in real time, every morning, every night. I always say that every morning I wake up to images of children being taken or killed, images of women, mothers, and I can't talk to my feminist friends about what's happening with women in Palestine. And that's all before October 7th. So can you imagine what this last year has been like for me? Like in it, while also being so free, so-called free. It is an immense amount of, I don't even want to talk about me, what this year has been like. I just know what my duty is. My duty is to keep talking to my neighbors and trying to enlighten them. We're past education. You have all the materials. All of us have the materials to educate ourselves. But what do we do now to transcend and bring us to action and awareness on another level? Those pillars that Ruth was talking about were very powerful to me. We're not just bearing witness. What else are we going to do? What is this next year going to be like for me? And you know, if I sit and talk about me, I could get really sad about myself, you know, and I could get really sad. But I don't have time for that because we're up to 300,000 dead in a year in a mass industrialized extermination. And when I say those words, you know, I feel like I'm transported to like medieval times, or even like not that long ago, you know, less than like 80 years ago, to the Holocaust, to these like worst times of our human history. And here we are, just, you know, going about our day to day. And I always think, what could I have done differently if I bore witness to those times and I had the enlightenment that I have now? And I'd like to think that I would be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, which is carrying the pain with me and carrying the call to action with me every single day and every hour at a cost to my life. It's a cost I'm willing to sacrifice. And I'd like to think that that's what I would have done in the past if I was bearing witness to these atrocities. And I'd like to call on everyone to think about what sacrifices can they make today during this atrocity. And saving one kind of people is not to the detriment of another. We need to remove this zero-sum game mentality here in America. I am not against Jewish people, nor are my people trying to annihilate the Jewish people. We are against an occupying, genocidal state. It's a political state, and we have the right to defend ourselves. And I'd like to ask you all to join me in that struggle in the ways that you can.
I have to echo most of the things that Roxanne said. I've been a member of Jewish Voice for Peace for many years. I became an anti-Zionist. My family comes from Eastern Europe. I lost family in the war. And I know the history of the Jews in Europe very well. And they have had one of the worst scarred and tragic histories of any group of people on the planet. And so what I could never understand is how these people who come to a foreign place, Palestine, and turn around and do the same exact thing that happened to them, to these people. Why is that happening? How could they do it? Now, I come out of the civil rights movement, and so it has been, my thing for so many years to fight for the underdog, to help no matter who I am, and to try to get other Jewish people to see what's happening in Israel, that it is not a Jewish state, it is a Zionist state, please. This is a Zionist project. It's got nothing to do with anti-Semitism, nothing. And I don't care if Netanyahu can stand on top of Mount wherever and complain that this anti-Semitism is happening here. No, it is not. No, it is not. And the other thing, that Arabs and Jews have been living together for eons. Didn't happen in 1948 all of a sudden. No. So the problem is that we've had just this horror going on, and that no one seems to care. And I love when people are asked in the news and so on, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. Give me a break. What about the occupation? How long are people supposed to be stateless? How long are they supposed to be without freedom, without rights? The other day on Amy Goodman's show, Democracy Now!, I saw a wonderful Palestinian poet, Nasab Abu Toha, who happened to say that Palestinians in Gaza don't have suitcases. They wrap all their stuff and put it into school bags, because where are they going to go? There's no airport, there's no train station. They have nowhere to go. And we must fight, and I have to fight as a Jewish person to push other Jews to see what's going on in Israel and stop this nonsense as much as I can, and I will keep fighting.
Thank you so much, all three of you. So let's hang on to this. I'm going to, I've got my traveling mic.
Oh,
So I'm
there you go,
gonna
traveling.
fight you and head down to ask anybody who wants to speak right now and share your experience, share your feelings, share your threats, share your plans with us.
I have a comment. I congratulate all three of you for coming on the stage and speaking. I heard about that, what happened last year, and I was really, how do you say, I was very sad about it. But I will say, you know, what we can do, together is to like band together and also help one another and work together, love one another. Love is stronger than hate, and justice is better than vengeance.
Talking about solidarity.
We are talking about solidarity, but I will never shy away from saying that I hate injustice. I abhor the killing of children. And I'm not shy to say that. And I want us to remember that when we talk about love, love springs us to action. Love is not always just like, what is your definition of peace, right? I'm not at peace right now. When I wish you peace and blessings, it is to strive to get to a place where we can be at peace with each other. And of course it comes through love, but we have to acknowledge the extreme emotions that love can exist with. What do you think it's going to do to this generation of children to witness that their parents being taken from them in this way? What do you think it's going to do to the parents to see their children decimated in this way? We have a long way to go as a human race. And I don't want to shy away from the fact that we as Americans can keep talking about Israel, but we are complicit. We are complicit. So what are we doing? What is our responsibility, right? When we strive for love, I can love my dear friend Lemia Abu Raida, who took her grandson from the tents by the beach to another encampment away from the beach because he has respiratory problems. And she said, I can't let it exacerbate. I have to get it before, because there's no place for her to take her grandson. This gives me a feeling of such uneasiness, and I have to name it. In Arabic, the word is kahar, and kaharat. I am I don't even know what the translation is, Ghanim. I don't know if you know, because you know language, but it's like beyond humiliation. It's beyond anger. It's like this. It's like spitting on someone and watching them spit on you and seeing you as lesser than. Kahar is like the feeling of those movies that I see about enslaved people being whipped at the post and what they must be feeling. So we have to acknowledge that love will come with other emotions, and that paradox and that dichotomy. We have to sit in it as Americans. And I encourage you to be honest about your feelings. I love my neighbors, but I'm so frustrated with all of them. I'm so frustrated with all of them. And that's not hate, but I hate what the things that are making me feel this way. And I'm not shy to say it anymore.
Hi. Yeah, I very much relate to all of those feelings. I've always been a fairly politically active person. And my view on American and international politics have changed a lot since I first sort of entered that arena. But this past year, since the acceleration of the genocide in last October, I've really thrown my priorities into anti-Zionism. And just the waking up to what is happening has really also woken me up to what's going on in American discourse surrounding the Middle East, and what we think of as anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. And it's been really hard. I won't deny that. I've lost a lot of friends. And I think back to the 2020 protests, the Black Lives Matter protests. And there was this sentiment among a lot of white liberals that, oh, solidarity doesn't cost you anything, because especially in a state like New York, there were no real consequences for most people to supporting BLM. And now that we're seeing a movement that is far more controversial in many professional spheres, like there's just a complete and utter lack of willingness to show solidarity, because it does cost something and it should cost something.
I'm going to say something. Yeah, I want to see if you have something else to respond to. I think that's a really important point you brought up. I was activated electorally when Trump was elected the first time, because I felt like it's going to cost me something, right? And I noticed there was a lot of people in our community that also felt the same, right? Like, and I think that might happen again, unfortunately, right? If he gets elected again, a lot of us will be called to action. I think what you were describing during BLM was that same feeling, right? By witnessing the murder of a man by a so-called servant of the people, who was actually putting on display that he was a servant of the state, willing to kill a Black or brown body on live TV. And what a lot of us saw, I think especially the young people, was this, they'll come for me next. You know, when I heard about Breonna Taylor being murdered in her home, when I heard about, I think it was 2014 or 17, Trayvon Martin, I think was 14, 17, I think was Michael Brown. I'm not sure of the dates, but I remember when Michael Brown was shot, I thought they're going to come for my kids next. My kids don't look like Michael Brown, but I felt like I'm next as a mother. His mother is suffering right now, and I'm next. Breonna Taylor as a woman in her home. I'm next as a woman in my home. And these are all very reminiscent of what Palestine looks like, because it's this uber exaggeration of what we have here. So I always can see, like, on my side eye, what Palestine looks like is very similar to what's happening here. And I'd like us to think about, yes, there is a cost. We talk about our freedoms. We're all worried about Trump. There is a cost no matter who wins. It doesn't stop. They're coming for us next. They will. They have. They've come for the students. They roughhouse my friends. The state comes in different forms. So the cost is already here. The question is, are you willing to risk something now for yourself? Or are you willing to lose it all to fascism and oppression and censorship, which is just going to snowball and snowball and snowball? And God bless these kids at the encampments all over the country, especially in New York, who put this on display for us, just like Dr. King did. Dr. King wanted to mirror the image of the hate and the oppression of the white establishment by using nonviolence. Dr. Malcolm X did something different to mirror the hatred. And the students did that too. They did it during Vietnam, and now our kids are doing it today. So I hope our eyes are opened. It was a frustrating time last year to see what was happening to the students and what they were willing to give up. But I applaud you. And I'm also, like, as someone who's old enough to be your mom, I'm worried about you, but I also am proud of you. Again, I will sit in that paradox. And I ask you all, what are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? Or are we going to keep going day to day and watching Instagram and say, I'm so sorry, and cry together? Or are we going to do something? The students showed us that they're willing to give it all up. And God willing, I will be there for every single student to help you get your jobs back, get you off of those blacklists that are awful censorship and doxing. I will be there as a mentor for you, as someone who has some resources, and I will help you get back on track, because I will not let the establishment put you down for something that historically you are on the right side of. So I applaud you and thank you for doing what you did.
Hi, my name is David Jones. The I've been listening to every word that's being expressed here today. The question still remains that if we take something apart, what do we replace it with? And to look at the larger overall picture, which is the entirety, ruling the entirety of this planet. That's the settler colonialist approach to things. Uh, the papal bull. You go in and you just take things from people who are heathen, and I count myself as among the very heathen. My people are amongst the real original people in this country. So I feel very strongly about reparations on one hand. How does one repair a system that we all live by? And our system depends on taking things from others who cannot resist our ability to take that from them. This is much too complex a thing for casual comment. It's in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion, and I hear all the horrors, and I've lived through apartheid, so I really get it. I lived through the time when America was divided amongst people of color, and you might say it was the real black and white of the situation. Is that America was founded with that idea in mind. America rejected the folks who came over here and found such abundance, had no idea how to utilize that abundance or how to diplomatically join with the people who lived here. Their idea was that these people were inferior and they did not matter. So as we learn our history, and I'm talking 20,000 years, 10,000 years ago, we find that the East and the West have always been part of the continuum. You see the ships that have arrived here. You see evidence of other cultures having been established here long before so-called recorded history. You see the evidence of it. You see the evidence of people who were very different than ourselves, our current group of peoples. I don't have any answers. I know that power is really what drives most politicians. It's the idea that you can get something done that reflects your greatness. Like we have Elon Musk, who I saw, he and I were separated by 20 feet, and I was going to go over and chat him up, but I was at SpaceX. And my son said, "Dad, don't talk to that guy. You'll get me fired," because my son knows how I think about things. And in any event, we are governed in such a way that we don't care about people, the least amongst us, or it's all about not understanding the impermanence of this corporeal life itself. And I guess that I should probably shut up at this point. And there's a unless we can change the way we live, the system under which we live, we're doomed to repeat the same mistakes of the past, perhaps in more sophisticated ways, but ultimately the end justifies the means, and the means is to provide for the many and to do more for those select few. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shoshana. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Shoshana here. I am in the Staten Island for Palestine Coalition. I'm very proud to do that. Proud to be a friend of Roxanne's and proud to have some folks here that have been in that work. And I most love that it's as diverse a coalition as it is. We are multi-generational, multi-age, multi-background, multi-faith, and we're clear. I think one thing we can do is to choose to stand. We can choose to use our voice, to be together, to not be gaslit the way that we are continually every single day. It's so toxic. But I just wanted to make a comment about some stuff. It's so hard. And I also, Roxanne, a lot of times I just numb out. And then when it hits me, it's like I don't know how to process it. Some days I just can't stand. I can't imagine how anybody around me can. I'm like, what is wrong with everyone? And I think some of what I'm thinking is that, we are reared in this hierarchy. People don't want to talk about it. They haven't reckoned with it really. I believe that Jews are probably exactly doing that because of the psychosis of what they've experienced, because of the trauma. We have choices. We can either choose to stand, we can choose to try to be in our higher nature, or we can choose power. Some people have been welcomed into a power club. Now you get to be white, whatever that someone told you is. You can have power. I see it as an issue of enlightenment, like you say. It's a choice. What are we choosing? And so I'm just standing here very grateful to be in a community of people that are spiritual, that are caring, that have made those commitments to each other, and continue to take the steps that need to be taken. We have to be together. We can't do it by ourselves. So bravery, making those choices, because there are consequences if we don't. And it's worse than we can comprehend. It's the rest of our lives, really.
Can I just say something? Really, I'll try to be really quick. Yeah, I think there's some people behind you too, Ruth.
My husband.
Oh, yes. Should I let him say something first?
Sorry. Did you want to say something? Oh.
Many years, 30 years. I was teaching him.
David, here.
Ghanim and I go back several years. Yeah? Okay. We go back a very long time. And this was a class where I presented the idea that Jew and Palestinian could live together and look at the evidence. Ghanim himself then didn't think so. So we disagreed there. And I kept that because at that time I was teaching a course on Mahatma Gandhi. And I saw how Gandhi's development towards the caring that we all support now everywhere in the world, that it also included the wisdom of all the Jewish people who flocked upon him and actually gave him the strength to fight against the opposite. And so that was my own issue. And I've always maintained that because in issues about Palestine and whatnot, I have always argued for the nonviolent method. of resolving conflict based upon Gandhiji. And this, what is taking place in Israel now, pains me terribly. I visited Israel several years ago and loved it. And I was given friends, Jewish friends told me who to visit. And they told me about the pain they felt. And there was one family said that, you know, they can't handle, they keep supporting the government and whatnot. The issue was there, but they're going to perhaps migrate to another country because their children, they need them to have a place where they can study and whatnot, rather than prepare all the time about the struggle that's going on. So my point is, both Jew and Palestinian can live together, in my experience. And, but the point is, why is this not happening? And in my opinion, foolish it may be, when I see the prime ministers or the presidents of all the Western powers, before they come to talk about this issue that's taking place, I support Israel. And how can we change that?
I just want to say that when I am Palestinian on both sides, I am first generation American. I have the stories and the history of both sides of my family. We carry those stories with us, and I try to pass them to my kids who were born here. My husband is white American. It's very important for me because he doesn't have that lineage that I have, that my children retain that oral tradition. The reason for that is because we are being annihilated. If I was to say to you during the 1800s, when we were trying to emancipate the enslaved people, if I walked around as a person who thought of myself as an abolitionist, and I said, white people and Black people could live together. If only we could just live together, then we could abolish slavery. Looking back, I would think that I would be a crazy person. The job is to eliminate slavery. We take things one step at a time. The stories of Jews and Arabs and Palestinians living together are bountiful, but I cannot keep talking about whether we as human beings have the capacity to love each other. We do. The argument isn't if Palestinians and Jews can live together. The argument is if they can live together in a state that sees itself as supreme over another people. These are tangible systems, David, that we can break. If we try to boil the ocean and solve all the injustices of humanity, you will be crippled in inaction because we cannot fix human beings, but we can fix systems. We abolished slavery. We ended Jim Crow. We did not resolve injustice in America. We still have reparations. We owe Black people the unpaid labor, centuries of unpaid labor, centuries that built this country. We owe a debt, an acknowledgement. We didn't do that, but we did end slavery as a system. We did convince the South that they can have a system that does not rely on human bondage and human beings as chattel. So if we keep thinking about Arab and Jew, Palestinian, we will be crippled with inaction. We must first think as Americans who must not support apartheid, occupation, and genocide. And from there, I promise you, things will start to fall into place, just like they are for South Africa. We did not fix South African apartheid. We did not fix racial inequality. We did not fix the ghettos and the housing inequity in this country and in South Africa. But I encourage you to think as Americans first and not participate. How can you hold our government accountable for supporting mass killing, occupation, and genocide? And please, it's a little bit hard for me to keep hearing about like whether Jews and Palestinians can get along, because in my history, that's all we did. We weren't perfect. My grandfather tells me stories that are quite beautiful, but they weren't perfect. It's not a movie. We're human beings. We're messy. We're clunky. But we did live together. And I want Americans to stop talking about whether or not we're capable of it, because we are as human beings, not just because we're Palestinian. Now, if we will heal, that's another story. That's another problem. That's another system we have to, what are the systems to heal the trauma? What were the systems that healed it? If you can call it healing for the Jewish people. There are some models of what we can do as a humanity to help people heal from atrocities. But let's first remove our complicitness in genocide, apartheid, and occupation, and then we can take it from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Petra. I am also another one of the organizers for this amazing coalition. Folks such as myself, Roxanne, Sally, and Shahana have all been a part of Staten Island for Palestine. I just wanted to emphasize, the importance, as we all emphasize, the importance of organizing and getting organized, and in a way that we've been doing, which is building our building it from a very grassroots community level in a way that's making our community a lot more connected, a lot more educated, a lot more resistant, a lot more organized, a lot more militant, everything we need that Staten Island and the country as a whole needs to start doing in order to essentially, break the back of the capitalist system, but also in a way that cares for our own and protects our own. So with that being said, I just wanted to take, hopefully not too much time, just going over a few of the amazing actions we have coming up. First off, today, there's going to be a speak out at Bay Ridge at 3:30. That's going to be on 86th Street and 4th Avenue. I'll see if I'm able to get myself there, and I encourage, folks who are able to come. Something a little more close to home. This Wednesday, October 30th, is going to be a study group for the Party of Socialism and Liberation. And pretty much everyone at PSL is also in Staten Island for Palestine. So we're very interconnected groups, which I'm very proud of. And that's going to be at Makerspace from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The first study group we had was absolutely amazing. So I encourage everyone to just come and, educate themselves. And the stuff that I actually have flyers for, if folks want to come and connect with me afterwards, I'll be sure to get you some of those. There is an ongoing fundraiser for to support Gaza. This is a national fundraiser for Mecca, the Middle Eastern Children Alliance. There's I think the goal is to raise $1 million nationwide, and we're getting pretty close to that goal from just New York alone. The flyers with the QR codes are here. We have volunteer meetings every Monday at the People's Forum from 6:30 to 8:30. You could join at the People's Forum if you feel like making a trip to Manhattan, or just online. You can usually find the invite links if you just go to the events tab on the People's Forum website. But folks need a little more technical support, we'd be happy to make sure those are shared out and connected with you on a weekly basis. And finally, this Saturday is going to be a march, No Votes for Genocide, at Union Square at 2 p.m. I know that there are plenty of Staten Island folks who are going to be outreaching and trying to organize this. And I think the plan is to head up together, take one of the ferries, probably the 12:30 or 1 o'clock ferry. I don't think we've agreed on the exact one we're going to take, but once we do, we'll probably share in our announcements channel and our Instagram. So finally, please do just reach out, find us. You could talk to any one of us. We'd be more than happy to get you connected, get you an hour, get you what you need to stay updated and follow us on Instagram or on our announcements channel on WhatsApp. And this organization has really been the thing that's been keeping me going through a lot of the through a lot of darkness, both like through like the atrocities that I'm, being witness to and a lot of struggles in my own life. I feel like, being around so many amazing people, reminds me that the world has enough martyrs, and it's been really keeping me going in a lot of important ways, keeping me from like withdrawing into myself and keeping me just connected to a community that, is loved and cherished. So I encourage every one of you to, just reach out and connect with us.
And you'll come to the coffee hour, and you'll bring the information, and it will be available for anybody and everybody who wants it. I hate to say this, it is 12:15. So we're of course a little overtime here. Mary, I'm going to be really, really quick. I just want to say that the topmost of mind for me is, how do we hold our government accountable? We have blood on our hands because we are Americans, and it's our government that is paying for all of this. I don't think there's anyone in this room that doesn't dread the idea of what would happen if Trump gets in again, and what he will do in relation to Israel and his support of Israel. At the same time, Kamala would not even allow a Palestinian speaker at the National Democratic Convention. Our choices are really, really poor with this election, but we need to talk about this. How do we hold them accountable? How do we hold ourselves accountable in the face of that? Thank you,
Just
Mary.
really quickly, one of the biggest obstacles to what's going on right now in Palestine is the inability of the American people to hold accountable the very powers that make that genocide possible. Our voting system, our political establishment, the way everything is set up, prevents us from doing anything major, anything radical. So until we get rid of those obstacles, the political obstacles, things aren't going to change. Not just for the Middle Eastern region in general. No one ever thinks about Central and South America, what we're continuing to do there. That continent is never spoken of. But also, what we do talk about, Ukraine, what's going on in Kashmir, or what the Uyghur people are going through in Western China, or what's happening in Africa, the scramble to control Africa because everything's politically reorganizing now. So the two-party system is the reason why we're failing. And the inability of the American people to see that we need to create a third party, or vote for a third party, or support through grassroots movements a third party, is one of the biggest failures of those who support Palestine, and those who say with their tongues that they support justice and equality and freedom, but with their hands continue to support the oppression. So that double forked tongue that you were talking about earlier. So until that changes, I don't think much is going to change in the United States, or in the areas where the American empire controls or disturbs what's happening in the world.
I couldn't have said it. Yeah, that poem nailed it, and I couldn't have said it better, but I'll just say, I'm not voting for genocide in New York State. And if you want to learn more about techniques that you could use your voice through your vote, which is one small way because of what Ghanim talked about, just talk to me afterwards.
And
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, people are talking about what they can do. And it is important to be strategic in the moment that you live in. And I have been involved with peace action since the Iraq War. And looking back, we had a two-party system then. We had a two-party system during the Vietnam War, and yet people were able to, in their acts, to do something. So I think I just invite people to join peace action in supporting at the Senate level, this joint resolution of disapproval of arms sales to Israel. This is something that we can do. And, I think there's a wide range of opinions within the coalition of Staten Island, for Palestine, which is healthy, I think, so that we can have the discussion, so that we can be strategic, because we ended the Vietnam War. I mean, after it took a long, long time, and it was because the soldiers stopped fighting, because the people rose up against it. We can stop this too. The people can do it. We can't wait. We can't wait for the two-party to go away. We can't wait for something to happen that may take decades. We need to have a strategy for today. So I please contact your senators and ask them to support the joint resolution of disapproval to arms to Israel. We could all.
I want to add to that because I also am a longtime activist, peace activist mostly, and I never saw a barricade I didn't throw myself on, but I'm too old to do that now. I mean, you notice it's even trouble for me to get up. I have to hold on to the podium or the pulpit.
You're amazing, Ruth.
So what us old people are doing who can't get out into the streets anymore, what Sally said, and beyond that, it's not just call your senators and call your representatives, which you can do with a little script in your hand, nice and sharp and concise, but also call the people who are on the Foreign Relations Committee, call the people who are on, in these various and sundry committees that have something to do with foreign policy. Because listen, I remember, I think you went with me too, maybe it was Marjorie. We went to hear Liz Holtzman, Bruce Fine, and the guy who's the publisher of Harper's Magazine in an open forum like this at Judson Memorial Church during the end of the Bush-Cheney regime. And they were begging for us to contact our electeds in the Congress for impeachment for these two guys. They were begging. And Liz and Holtzman said, in Watergate, how the people rose up after the Saturday Night Massacre. She said they were inundated. Well, she said, you don't sign petitions, with this, 1,500 signatures. That's nothing. They were inundated with millions of telegrams direct to the Congress, direct to the White House. That's the kind of barrage we want to do. That's the only way you can, because those voices say, we're not voting for you. That's their lifeline. So for old people like us, I don't mean you, Sally, she's got more energy than I could dream of. We can get on our phones, right? We can get on our emails. We can email them. We can call them. We can let them know. So I'm sorry, we're kind of run down out of time here, but come in the back, talk to our speakers, and continue to talk. Okay, so glad you're here and participating. Now I'm going to struggle up the stairs here. I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice. You can find the affirmation in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community. Oh, I'm so sorry. Light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again.